Hello, this video will contain two tier lists, the unit tier list and the starting specialist tier list from the free unit patch. This 3-week experiment is quite a long one, so I decided to do some tier list. And here it is for the units. I think the Overlord is by far the best unit in the game right now. I feel like every single one of its technologies are pretty much broken. And the crawler is great with Underground Bliss, Replicate, and with the Overlord Photon it's very good. And the Sledgehammer has been pretty broken for a while, I think, before the free unit patch even. But since the War Factory has been nerfed a lot, I think the Sledge is a lot better even right now. And there's not a good counter to the Sledgehammers, I feel like. Or there is, and it's the Overlord. But the problem is that the Sledge is probably the best unit in combination with the Overlord. So actually building these three units only is quite strong strategy in this patch. And the next set of units, I play a lot of aggressive play, so the Rhino is basically great on that. You cannot use this unit passively, but you can use it in a late aggro situation also. The bear likes favorite, and it's quite good with the Overlord because you can put Photon on the Overlord and use Rhino with Whirlwind as chaff clear. And a very popular unit in this meta is the Vulcan. And the Rhino provides quite a good front line to your crawlers against the Vulcan. And the Steel Ball is the same role. It protects your crawlers. And one of the reasons I rate these units so high is that, well, there's two reasons. One, if you pick up items early game, like heavy armor, portable shield, these units become super strong instantly. And later on, you can get, from the free units dropped, you can get a high level Rhino or Steel Ball. Like I think on round 4 you can get level 5 Rhino or level 5 Steel Ball. And I think if you have picked up heavy armor and you have Overlord with photon emission, the enemy cannot kill your level 5 Steel Balls. Like there is no counter. Not a single thing the enemy can do to defeat it. It's quite crazy. And chaff is always good. I think Crawler is in a better position now than the Fang, but the Fang is especially powerful with Sledgehammers and Overlords, I feel like. And the Vulcan is quite strong. It's better than the Wraith for sure as a chaff clear. Yeah, so this meta revolves heavily, or maybe I should say the game Mechabellum revolves heavily around clearing chaff. And that's why Vulcan and Wraith are rated so highly here. And to be honest, in this free unit patch, all the other units seem quite bad. Like Phoenix is, I think, before the free units, I think Phoenix was one of the best units in the game. Now you just can't do anything with it because there's so much stuff on the board. The melting point also while it's still a very good unit, it's not good versus Overlord. Same with the Fortress. It's not good versus Overlord. So that's the problem. And the Fortress used to be like a huge sledgehammer counter, but I don't feel like it is anymore. It is pretty good still if your opponent is making something like arc lights and stuff like that you can use Fang summoning with Fang shields. But not a good unit anymore. I feel like if there's a situation where you need to build giants, like for example, if I have started with Mustang Crawler, which isn't that good, the enemy will go Vulcan. And it used to be so that you just build a fortress because it protects your Mustangs. But now the Overlord is just so strong that you don't build fortress, you build Overlord. So it's kind of stupid. So I feel like many of these giants are just unusable because the Overlord is just better. And the Wasp, I don't have that much experience with Wasp, so it was hard for me to rate it, but it's quite a good unit as a chaff. It's quite good with jump drive, harassment, and it's quite good versus Overlords also, if you go range and aerial spec. So it might be a little higher or a little lower, I'm not quite sure. This is like for me the hardest unit to evaluate. Then we have all of these are pretty garbage, like Mustang. You can still play Mustang if you get high level Mustang and items for them, but they are not good anymore. I feel like there's too much stuff that is good against them. And the fact that Sledgehammer is rated so high that I think most players should buy Sledgehammers in this game. And Mustang is pretty bad against sledges. And then you can get, like, sledges can get armor. Then if you deal with the sledges, he can get freight with armor. It's just a very unreliable unit, I feel like. And the Stormcaller, it has its places. Like fire is obviously pretty powerful. EMP is good sometimes. It's quite good versus clumps of giants. Like if the enemy has lots of fangs as a chaff and goes Vulcans, the storm is pretty good. But it just struggles because it's bad against every one of these 3 units. Bad against Overlord, bad against Crawler, bad against sledges. So it's just very risky to build them. And the Marksman, I feel like the best use for Marksman right now is either aerial spec Marksman or assault mode Marksman, but they are very, very situational, I feel like. But it might be a little higher. Not quite sure. But I don't like the Marksman in general. But it definitely has its use cases in this metagame. Like you can build them no problem. And the Scorpion, I see some players rate this really high and actually build them. It's so crazy to me. It's just a garbage unit. Like you should always pick this from the free units, I feel like, because it gives 50 gold more than the other guys you can pick, but after that you just sell it. Like the only thing it's good against is steel balls, and if the steel balls got an item and photon emission, it's just not enough even to kill the balls. And against the sledgehammers, it can work early on if you get early Scorpion drop and the enemy has started with like 3 sledges. It's pretty good for a couple of rounds, but it's very easily overwhelmed. And the other use case is to play it like a long-range Scorpion. But I feel like that strategy is kind of like carry Arclight. You invest a lot to it and it just isn't even good. Might work on lower MMR games, but not a good unit in my opinion. If you really want to use the Scorpions, I think the proper use case is just to take the field maintenance on them and use them as a frontline tank. It is still good sometimes, but it's not amazing. Then the War Factory was a pretty broken unit a while ago. Now it has been nerfed to the ground. It still has its use cases, but the biggest problem of the War Factory is that it's just very bad against overlords. Even with missile interception, it just does nothing. So I'm probably the one with the most experience with the War Factories, and I find very few use cases in this metagame for the War Factories. And then the D tier list. Not quite sure which one of these is worse, but the hacker has some use cases, like if you get high level hacker from the free cards, it's quite good sometimes with range, maybe range and multiple control, but I used it quite a lot earlier in the patch, but lately I've been feeling that it's always a bait. Like it just gives the enemy a very, very good opportunity to go more into overlords. So that's the biggest problem. And the Arclight is a very sad unit in this patch. Like I think Arclight is a very aggressive unit. It's like a aggressive chaff clear, and with free units and the fact that you cannot deploy them aggressively at the start, it just makes it pretty bad. And if you start taking it early on, you lose so much money that you can put to some other better units that you are at a disadvantage. So here is my thoughts on the units. And like I said, there's only like 2 units that I'm not 100% sure where they should land, and one is Wasp, one is Marksman. But they are about where they should be. And maybe the Vulcan can be a little higher. It's quite a strong unit. Yeah, so let's go into the specialists. So let's create the tier list. So for sure the best specialist is the aerial spec, because the overlord is so broken, and with the aerial you win the overlord versus overlord battles. And the rate is quite a bit stronger with the extra range. Then I'm not sure about the second best. It's probably, let's see. So these 4 are probably the second best, but I'm not sure about the order. I think probably like supply spec, giant spec, rhino spec, cost control. And with the free units, the economy doesn't matter that much compared to before. And the tempo from the rhino doesn't matter that much compared to before, but these are still the best specialist for sure. Like some people say that the cost control is bad because you get so much free units and all the stats are nerfed, but I don't think so. I think the biggest weakness of the cost control is just that you cannot use crawlers effectively because you lose the replicate wars. I think that's the biggest disadvantage. But it hasn't been feeling like a bad specialist to me, like at all. Maybe it's something like this. But the supply spec is for sure a lot better than the cost control now. Before they were like kinda even, I think. And then the bad specialist. Maybe the marksman has been actually feeling pretty good because the aerial spec is so strong, and if you pick the aerial spec or if you pick the marksman spec to the aerial spec, it's quite powerful. And probably the elite is maybe worst. Heavy armor is, I feel like, okay with all the stat buff. It's probably something like this, right? I have been playing the elite specialist a lot, and I feel like it's pretty good on some use cases, but most of the games I struggle a lot with it. So I think if the enemy doesn't know how to deal with it, it's quite good, but once the enemy knows how to play, you cannot do anything. That's my feeling of it. And the speed spec is actually okay, I feel like, in this free unit patch, but the problem is that if you are against aerial specialist and everyone picks the aerial specialist, you cannot go on the line because of the raid threat. So then your specialist is kinda useless. So that's a big minus. But when you see your specialist starting screen, the enemy has the other set of specialists. Like there cannot be two same specialists in the game. So if you see like an aerial specialist with complete garbage units, maybe you can pick a speed specialist into it with good units. Because the enemy cannot have the aerial spec. So some of these bad specialists are still usable. Yeah, I think this is my tier list. I might create some specialist guides in the future, but I'm kinda waiting on this free unit stuff to stabilize before creating any kind of guide content. Like I feel this game is in a very bad spot right now, and I feel like the development team should do some changes, and I don't know what the direction of the changes will be, so I'm kinda waiting on that. So I don't wanna waste my time creating guides that are completely useless in like 1 month. Yeah, thanks for watching.